Hi, and welcome to today's video. In today's video, we'll be talking about panels, and joining me as our technical services manager, Jeff Haddock. So, Jeff, what are the primary types of commercial and architectural metal roofing panels?
So when you're dealing with architectural style panels, you're generally dealing with concealed fastener standing seam style profiles. Commercial type panels are going to be what we consider a corrugated profile. Now, corrugated often has a connotation that it's a wavy curve. Corrugated to us is just a shape that's an exposed fastener style panel system with exposed fasteners and things of that. Architectural style panel systems are designed, they're a little more labor intensive to install because they are a standing seam system, no exposed fasteners. A lot of the flashings and details are designed to allow for expansion and contraction, thermal movement of the roof system, whereas exposed fastener panels are less labor intensive to install, easier to replace, reinstall, things of that nature, do a lot of repairs on. Um, but they don't account for thermal movement because of the exposed fasteners utilized in there. So you're actually pinning the panel at various on-center spacings for attachment of that profile, whereas with standing seam, you are dealing with a concealed fastener panel that is allowing for that thermal movement. Another benefit of the architectural systems is the fact that we actually put factory sealant within those standing seam panels, which is another peace of mind feature built into the panels, that we know the panels aren't going to leak because we've got factory sealant installed within that. Whereas with a commercial style system, sometimes that sealant can be omitted or is field applied by
Yeah,
the
right.
installing contractor.
I know we've got a couple of different standing seam panels. What are the primary differences between the ones that we offer to the market?
Yeah, so we do have a few select style of standing seam profiles. The biggest ones are going to be, we have three categories of standing seam. We have our mechanically seamed, which utilize a mechanical seamer to fold the panel seam into its final configuration. So it's a big bulky seamer. These types of panels are generally used for very low slope. They have very tall seams, and a very robust seam because of the mechanically seaming process. And as stated, all of our standing seams are installed with factory sealant. Another series of standing seam panel systems that we have is what we call our snap lock system, where it's just a male and a female leg interaction that snaps together, does not require field seaming. Now, this type of panel, also available with factory sealant, is intended for slightly steeper slopes, on the order of 2 and 12 pitch or higher. We do have some instances where we have gone below 2 and 12 pitch. If the roof design allows for that, we want to make sure that the roof's not too cut up, doesn't have a lot of transitions and things of that nature. We want to keep it fairly simple when we get down to lower slope. But think of a snap seam system being a pretty typical residential style application or steeper slope. Most residential type application roof slopes are utilize a 3 and 12 pitch or greater, and that's pretty fit for purpose on that type of panel. And then the third type of panel system that we have is what we call a batten cap standing seam system. And again, we do have two different styles of this, one being a wide batten, which gives you that old kind of Borden batten style look. And then we have a narrow batten seam, which that type of profile does come with factory sealant. The wide batten unfortunately doesn't, but the narrow batten system does. Now, the benefits of a narrow batten system are that we can do a lot of things with it. The narrow batten systems can be tapered. We can radius those style panels. So it's really kind of a utilitarian panel that you can do a lot with. The only unfortunate thing with that style panel is that generally it's a two-piece system, won't accept solar like in a standard
Hmm.
um, standing seam panel will, and it's not ideally suited for snow zones because the standing seam is actually separate from the panel itself. So the battens can come off. But again, it's a desired look out there, and we can do a lot with it. Whereas opposed to our mechanically seamed roofs and our snap lock systems, solar clamps or snow retention can be applied to those. We do have the ability on our mechanically seamed panel to radius that as well, but with our snap lock panel, we don't. So that's the three main types of standing seam panels we provide.
And I know that we offer warranties on a select range of our standing seam panels. Which of those are applicable for a weather tightness warranty?
So any of our mechanically seamed panels would be eligible for weather tight warranty, and as well as our snap lock. The biggest thing is that our biggest requirement for weather tightness warranty is it must have factory applied sealant. That is a big no go for us. If it doesn't have the factory sealant, we will not offer it. Now, with regards to the batten seam, that generally involves a pre-technical review to make sure that that panel is going to be fit for purpose. And things that we're looking for is, well, where is the project installed? Is it in a snow zone? Is solar supposed to be applied to this? Is the slope lower than what we would advise to that panel, because that panel is supposed to be installed on a 3 and 12 or steeper. So these are things we'll vet that particular profile out for use on that. And usually if that profile won't work, we can usually shift that over to a snap lock system, and absolutely we can move it over to a mechanically seamed profile that can cover a very broad range of applications and locations as far as where the project's installed.
So it sounds like there's quite a bit to product choice, between the location, what you're going to put on the roof, what the aesthetic is, what the type of building is, the roof slope. So it's not just as easy as picking one. You really have to consider a lot of factors.
Absolutely. A lot of people get hung up on the roof look that they want. Oh, I have to have this panel because I like the look of it, but you really need to look at the application you're using for it to find out and make sure that it's fit for purpose, right? And we want to make sure that that panel, although you do like the aesthetics of it, we need to make sure that it is going to work for your intended design. And that's a big critical step.